Yeah.
All right. So, Carol Ann, thank you for coming today. You've been at the university entrepreneurship game or activities for many years now. And I know that you retired last year. It's been 12 months. So
Almost.
what are you up to now?
I am up to much the same thing I was. It just looks different in how I do it.
Okay.
Because when you really know what you enjoy and what you've been gifted to do and where you get fulfillment and make a difference, you don't stop doing that.
Yeah.
You just do it differently. So instead of being paid
Yeah.
for a lot of things that I do now, I volunteer. I can make choices in where I
Right.
volunteer my time, but I'm still very involved in supporting entrepreneurial organizations, certainly in this community, particularly tech innovation and entrepreneur organizations. I've chosen to devote more time to some things that I previously didn't have as much time for, like supporting Florida Photonics Cluster, for example, STEM education at ITSIC, which is the world's largest military government academia
Right.
modeling, simulation, and training event each year. And certainly taking advantage of the opportunity to pursue some personal objectives. My husband and I are traveling more. I've enrolled in some education fellowship programs, a little more volunteer time, doing various things, more family time.
So is it fair to say that that's why you're so committed to this area because of the industry that you're supporting, and or is there anything else that we're missing? Because you can go anywhere, right? But you have decided to stay here in Orlando.
And a lot of it's because of the people, the relationships, the network that I have. Whether or not this is where I'll be long term, don't know. Got to make that clear, to me, if we need to transition somewhere else. But for now, there are just so many initiatives and efforts and programs in the community that I had the privilege of being involved in early on and helping support as they grew and developed. And what's really so joyful is watching the next generation of leaders step into place and being there to support them, like so many people supported me when I was at that stage in my career. Perhaps it's a little bit of wanting to complete the circle in a way.
Okay. All right, that's fair. So let's talk about university entrepreneurship, because I think that's something that you dominate very well.
Excuse me.
And
My eye is watering for some reason here. So, do you have a clinic?
Yes, I will get you.
Yeah.
Get you squared away.
I noticed that you're.
I should have taken some allergy medicine this morning, I think. We'll start that question over here.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Will that work?
Yeah, that's fine. Just, yeah. It's always, tends to be the right eye. Okay. Hopefully that'll do it.
Yep.
A bit. Okay.
So yeah, so I would like to talk about something that is very important and is close to your heart and my heart, which is university entrepreneurship programs. So I would like to get some input from you about what does that mean, right? Not only for the institution, but also for perhaps for the region, for the state. Yeah.
Pretty broad question. What comes to mind is several things. One, universities, colleges, academia in general have historically been the institutions that have prepared our citizens or work and service and leadership wherever they choose to go, whether that's scientifically and technically, whether it's business, whatever it is. And those institutions have also been, and the data supports this, the primary source of innovation. At the basic research level, the incredible breakthroughs in science and technology and sociology and historically, archaeology, you name it, it's all across the board, but also in applied and transitioning that innovation and the results of that research to industry and application in the real world, and providing the workforce and talent to support it. Entrepreneurship is the driver of every economy. Mm-hmm. Every company on the planet started in somebody's mind, no matter how big that company is. That's true globally. That's not just here in the U.S., as we know. And entrepreneurs can come from everywhere, but we are often had that discussion about, are entrepreneurs born or are they made?
Yeah.
Correct? There's a little bit of both. I don't think it's one or the other. Even if you have a passion and desire and a natural inclination to be an entrepreneur, you need to be guided and mentored and tutored and taught. And some of the aspects of how to direct that and grow a business successfully and get help. You never do it on your own.
Yeah. You said something that caught my attention, and it's the workforce development or the workforce side of things, right? Especially when for universities. And I say that because I think that we have a problem in certain areas of the state and the nation where states and counties spend all this money investing in kids through their early years, like high school and middle school, elementary school. And then they leave and they never come back because there's nothing to come back to.
There aren't jobs there for them.
Right.
Perhaps they want to get away and experience different parts of the world, which is perfectly legitimate. Yeah. But hopefully they'll come back.
Right.
They'll realize once they're away what that community meant to them, but there needs to be opportunities for them there. So the role of university entrepreneurial training for students, for staff, for faculty, for the community more broadly is what underpins the economy, period, and helps move all that great education and research out of the primary manufacturer, if you will, or of the talent and knowledge in so many ways. I often tell, whether it's a room full of students or a room full of community members, that you may never want to be a CEO and start your own company. And goodness knows that's not what we need. We don't need everybody to be an entrepreneur in that sense of starting their own company. However, it is critical and important that every one of us know how to think like an entrepreneur. More and more so in today's world as things evolve so quickly, whether it's technology, whether it's what's happening around the world, whatever it is, the ability to adapt, to persevere, to think longer term as well as tactically is just a life skill, period.
Oh, man. And I'm happy you ended that statement there, because when you said that, I went back to 9/11, and because I want you to take us back to what happened after 9/11, because it takes leadership with those elements or traits to get to where we're at right now. But take us back to 9/11, because you were there, you were here when the ecosystem was much different. So take us to that era, and what's the difference between now and then, and why are we here, and how we were able to make it here?
Convoluted journey, and where we are now is not where we'll end up or should or need to be. But going back to 9/11, which was a global earthquake for all of us, I was still at the University of Florida, not expecting that I would ever leave there for any particular reason. All of Florida felt the economic impact because of our incredible dependence on tourism, in Orlando, Metro Orlando in particular, at that time was primarily tourism in so many ways. Yes, there was a lot of great technology here, but it wasn't as visible as it is today. The economic impact of that event really was a wake-up call to the community leaders, university, government, corporate, nonprofit, everybody involved in economic development finally got it. This was not a new message that needed to diversify the local economy. But until there's a pain, as humans, we don't respond. We don't get motivated to do something. That pain was sufficient enough that it motivated the community and the leadership to say, we have to get serious about diversifying the economy and supporting tech-based economic development in particular, because we have a base of technology here, but we have to grow that. That is where the world is going. Yeah. What came out of that commitment was a really interesting document called the MOTS, the Metro Orlando Technology Strategy.
Okay.
I was not here in Orlando at the time, obviously. I was still in Gainesville at UF. But I was coming to Orlando because of the relationship we had at UCF with the group I was with at UCF. I had been surprisingly asked if I would consider coming to UCF, and this was by Dr. O'Neill, Tom O'Neill, who started the incubation program. Had just started it in 1999, right?
Yeah.
And here we are a couple of years later, and had this global earthquake, and the community all of a sudden is thinking, we've got to do something. Right. One of the recommendations in that Metropolitan Orlando Technology Strategy was to create more ways to support community entrepreneurs, particularly tech-based entrepreneurs. They look over to the east side of the county and say, UCF's got this technology incubator over there, because that's what it was called at the time. Let's just support it.
Right.
Dr. O'Neill had asked me to think about coming to help with the program. I started coming down to learn more about what was going on in Orlando, really. I knew about UCF, but I didn't really know about Orlando. I went to a meeting where they talked about and gave an overview of this new Metropolitan Orlando Technology Strategy. That made such an impact on me to hear how committed the community was and to see that they were actually starting to execute on that, including Orange County, City of Orlando, moving forward to make a commitment to support UCF and the entrepreneurial activities. Yeah. Along with some other factors,
right.
It just became clear to me that this is where God wants me to be. This is where I need to come. So.
And what's surprising is that it is 27 years later or 30 years later, and we still at it, and the community
and
continue
still have
to
that
support. Yeah.
Which is unheard of in almost every place else in the country where there are incubators. We've heard that over and over from colleagues all around the country. How do you create these relationships, much less sustain them for so long from these local governments when elections happen and people change and commissioners change and council people change, but you deliver value and you deliver impact.
Yes.
And that is at the core of UCF, not just the incubation program, but UCF, as we know, was created primarily to help drive the local economy by delivering great research and great talent to companies and organizations that really drive the economy.
Yeah, and speaking of companies, you have touched so many companies, so many CEOs, and more than touch, you coached them, you nurtured them. Can you tell us a story of a company or maybe an entrepreneur that have touched you as a human, and that you can carry that story for the rest of your professional career?
Wow, there's probably a pretty substantial list, but the first one that came to mind when you asked that was a young man by the name of Joe Slippy. Joe is still here in the incubator, I believe, with his company Capacitech Energy.
Yeah.
But Joe's story, what he has been through personally with tragedy and challenges personally, as well as with the business, unexpected, I want to use the word betrayal almost, by key people in the company that created enormous legal and financial hardships. I don't know how many times Joe had found himself almost on the brink of having to close the company. This company that he started while he was a student at UCF, partnering with one of our lead faculty in nanoscience to license this technology and move it into the market. He has just persevered. He has continued to have faith in the purpose and of what he was doing. He has learned, he has grown, he has used every program and resource in the community that he could find. The humility, the authenticity, the leadership growth that he's undergone, the faith that he's exhibited, and never wavering in knowing that this may not be what ultimately succeeds, but this was what was going to prepare him for the next step if this didn't work. But today he's on the verge of great success.
Right.
Partly because the time has come for the solution, I think, too.
Right.
We see a lot of that in the incubator. It takes so much, though, to get through this entrepreneurial journey. And when you compound it by a lot of personal and professional challenges, as will happen.
Yeah.
If you're going to go down this journey, as we know,
Yeah.
you are going to be tested in absolutely every way possible in every aspect of your life.
Yeah, so you're so right. It takes such a long time, and there's many times where we meet leaders, and whether it's at university settings or political settings, and they think that commercialization or economic development is like taking a Tylenol, and your headache will go away. But it's a long-term investment. And that example that you just provided us about Capacitech, that's a good example. It takes time and maybe many pivots, many ups and downs, valley of death, right? And here we are, and he's almost at that point where he can say, look, I made it to the goal line. So,
But I will say, too, he would be the first to admit this, that a big reason of why he's been able to make it through all these incredibly difficult times has been because he's been in the incubation program. And he would come to us, be honest about what he was facing, ask for advice, ask for guidance, ask for help. As leaders of the program, first me and now you've been able to work with him and support him through those challenging times in ways that he would not have been able to have and accomplish on if he wasn't part of this program. And that
Right.
is what part of the profound difference that an incubation program makes. It's not just in supporting the company to success and achieve all these milestones. It is in helping them get through those valleys,
Right.
often dig their way out of situations that they inadvertently find themselves in and learn from it.
Yeah, having that safety net, right?
Yeah.
Is so important. I always say that you cannot do it by yourself, right? And from my experience, the companies that make it to a certain level, whether we can call that success or not, are the companies that come and see us all the time. And they ask questions and,
Yes.
and they ask for help.
And they admit
yeah.
that they don't even
Yeah.
know what to ask sometimes.
Right. Yeah. So I have two more questions that I wanted. One is related to the ecosystem, and then I want to go back to your story, personal story. But when we talk about ecosystems, where do you see that ecosystem fall short? What are some of the things that folks that are trying to build an ecosystem need to know in order to increase the amount of the level of success or the chances of getting to that next level of success?
I have one single answer to that question. It's not what most people would say. Most people would say we need more capital, we need more successful entrepreneurs reinvesting, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
No. We have so many amazing organizations in this community supporting entrepreneurs, small businesses, medium, larger size companies. What we do not have is a unified voice. Ever since I've been here, that's been a constant theme. And efforts to help create that and bring the ecosystem together in a unified way have not achieved that result yet. I don't know what the real answer is to making that happen.
Yeah.
But when you look across the landscape at communities that are getting a lot of attention, they're attracting a lot of companies, they're attracting a lot of capital, they're attracting a lot of pretty much everything, there is a clear message coming from across the leadership in that community.
That's interesting. Why? Why do you think it's happening?
I had this conversation yesterday with someone, so it's certainly top of mind. If we knew that, then I think we would have fixed it by now, right?
Well, you must have your personal opinion.
I do.
And it's your opinion.
Yeah. I think in some ways it may be because that individual that everyone sees as the person that they trust, maybe that person's not surfaced yet. I don't know. I hate saying that because we have some incredible leaders in this community that are real conveners, right?
Yeah.
Part of it is most likely because, unfortunately, the way so many of the organizations are funded, dependent on public funding, there's this feeling that we have to have our own clear identity. And a unified voice doesn't mean that people lose their identity, that organizations lose their identity. That's not the point. Everyone views their organization as maybe different, better. We live in a culture that is very much about the individual. I think back, especially now, where all very much aware of the 250th anniversary of Declaration of Independence and the Founding Fathers. It was a struggle back then, but what created this country is that they came together with a unified vision that created this completely unique experiment of a democratic republic. And I encourage everybody listening to go really understand what those two words mean and why it's such a delicate balance.
Yeah.
Our country's not that way today, and our communities reflect that.
Gotcha. So it's kind of like having that that document that attracted you to Orlando, right? Where the city and the county unite,
It's a great point.
right? To go after one particular
City,
goal.
the county, the university, key corporations, key nonprofits, all felt the same pain. Maybe that's why we're not so unified.
Sometimes I think of this area or this ecosystem and I think we all go through this in life, and this will help for the next question, is that we don't know so we know what we want to be, but we're not sure what we're going to be or what do we want to be when we grow up type of thing. I think Orlando is still trying to figure out their identity, even though we're heavily very tourism driven and everybody knows who we are because of the attractions that we have locally. For the rest of us here, we feel like we're still trying to look for that brand. And I don't know, in comparison to Miami and Tampa, I feel like they're almost there in certain ways.
I ponder this sometimes because to us from the outside, it looks like maybe they've got it figured out. But I think if you talk to people in those communities, they'd be saying the same thing we're saying in a way.
Yeah. So let's go back to where you started, right? Because one interesting aspect of your story is the fact that you did not plan to be an entrepreneurial business leader in our community. That's not
at all.
That didn't come to you when you graduated from college, right?
No,
and so tell us
How'd
about
I
your
get
journey.
here?
Yeah, how did you get here? Yeah.
It's this convoluted path God took me down. I thought for many years I wanted to be a doctor, and that was where I was focused in all the classes I took in high school and even going into college. I was a biology major. That was my passion. I worked one summer in the library at the university and really was fascinated by what was then a emerging field of information science, knowledge management, technologies, few online databases starting to emerge primarily from some of the government entities. And I found myself really torn. It's like, this is fascinating, but I really love medicine and science. Fortunately, I was blessed to discover that there was this career path I could pursue, a master's in library and information science with a specialization in healthcare. So I go south from Fayetteville, Arkansas to Baton Rouge to Louisiana State University and get my master's. Applied for one job back in Little Rock at the University of Arkansas Medical School and was hired there on the library staff to support physicians, support staff, support researchers at the university with a lot of information research, teaching some of the doctors about how to do research and things like that. It was wonderful. Here I was in this environment that merged these two fields that I was so passionate about. Through some life circumstances, ended up leaving Little Rock, eventually ended up in Florida, in Gainesville at the University of Florida, walked into the library and said, I've just moved here, don't know if you have any openings. At first they didn't, but they did come back and did hire me onto the staff there in the library. I was helping students, helping faculty there, but I really wasn't immersed, and I wasn't having that passion fed on the real science and technology side of it. Until a couple of years after arriving there, I got a call from the College of Engineering, a center over there that wanted to know if I'd be interested in interviewing for a position with them. Turns out they were a NASA-funded center serving a number of states to support NASA and primarily Kennedy Space Center, Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, and Stennis Space Center in Mississippi, in identifying discoveries coming out of those NASA centers that had commercial potential, making companies aware of that intellectual property and those discoveries and ways to work with NASA to commercialize those. That's what really moved me into the technology commercialization.
So it's like
field.
a tech transfer function.
Exactly,
Yeah, okay.
exactly. It was, and I practically lived in the tech transfer offices at those 3 field centers. That's where I spent most of my time, working with those teams, working with the researchers, doing a lot of community networking, ecosystem building. That whole experience really exposed me to the broader world of science and technology. Of course, NASA deals in just about every area of science and technology, everywhere from medicine to materials, you name it, across the board. I did have an opportunity in there to be part of a startup company. One of the contracts that I managed for this group at University of Florida was funded by the Defense Intelligence Agency. We were prime contractor for them to be the only unclassified information source for an interesting series of assignments they would get to investigate the involvement of foreign corporations in U.S. companies, where that U.S. company was critical to the military-industrial complex. Nothing's changed.
Oh my God! So I'm hearing you saying all these things, and those are all the ingredients that you're putting to this recipe that created this leader, right? Because everything that you have touched on, it is so important to what you were doing at the end of your career,
At the
right?
end of it, yeah.
It's interesting
all
how life
building
works.
blocks.
Yeah,
There,
yes.
nothing was random. Nothing was
It's meant to be.
coincidence. It was, it's all meant to be. The program that the Defense Intelligence Agency funded ended up being shut down. The director of the program decided to take it private. I finally, after a year or so, gave in and agreed to be vice president for information technology for the company, and that was my entrepreneurial stint for a few years. Let's just say that it got to a point where ethically and morally I was not aligned with the investor behind the company primarily,
Right.
and decided I could not stay there. Yeah. How amazing that University of Florida called me and said, would you be interested in coming back?
Oh, that's great.
And it was the same organization
Yes.
in the College of Engineering, but NASA had restructured their program a little bit, and the center wanted me to run the Southeast Network, which was 14 states, and University of Central Florida was one of our subcontractors. That's why I was spending a lot of time in Orlando
Awesome.
in my second stint at University of Florida. Got to know the Dean of Engineering, got to know Dr. Swallow, who was VP of Research, got to know Dr. O'Neill as he was starting the incubator. In fact, I wrote the letter of support from our organization for him to get a $300,000 grant from NASA to help start the incubator. We helped support some of the early companies with market research because we did a ton of market research. We had very unusual digital information access in this center we ran for NASA because we were doing commercialization studies, we were doing technology analysis, we were doing market research. I remember supporting companies like Rini Technology and others that were early in the program.
Optigrade,
We even
right.
were asked at one point to come down and help design a strategic plan for really creating a tech transfer office at UCF.
Oh, wow.
John Miner was there at the time as a student.
It's a long time ago. Yeah. Hey, so speaking of universities, now that you are, in a way, you're not so close to the university like you were before, and I know you still have some acting roles in the community. Where do you see universities in general when it comes to commercialization in the next 3 to 5 years? What's your personal opinion or your vision on where do you think we're going to be?
I haven't particularly thought about it in that way.
How about maybe where should university be focusing on the next 3 to 5 years?
The tighter integration across the universities of awareness and messaging and support to primarily graduate students and staff, I think is so critical. There's so much student entrepreneurial activity that goes on across the board, always has been. There's typically been increasing focus on supporting faculty that want to start companies. There's real challenges in faculty starting companies, though, and it's a catch-22 because if you have a faculty member that starts a company, you are going to lose some of that time and attention and capability to do research and teach, and that can have some consequences too.
And some value too.
And some value.
Right?
Yes.
Sometimes we forget about the value that they're learning. They're not.
Yes. Yeah. But the staff and faculty that are graduate students and staff that often are involved in the innovation engine at a university, I don't know and see that they get quite the attention. That is such a big population of individuals that are involved in the creation of intellectual property at the universities. I would love to see more attention paid to that. But part of what makes that happen, I think, is a clear appreciation and understanding at the top and across the board in the leadership of an institution about the value of those activities. Universities were created to educate and do research. I don't know that in general the institutions from the top down appreciate the importance of moving the research into the marketplace. They all fully understand the importance of moving the talent into the marketplace. So it's an interesting blind spot.
Yes.
We transfer talent and workforce, but what about the research?
Yeah, and I think we're going through a transition to nationwide. Well, I know statewide we are, because there are some external demands now that are different from the fundamentals, which is education, right? Which I think it aligns with what we're experiencing right now, where we have become an economic development engine. Whether we planned that out or not, we are. We have an impact in the local economy. So I wonder, talking of leadership, right, and speaking of leadership, it is so critical that our leadership, to your point, value the commercialization and economic development aspect of or power of an institution.
I see that increasingly happening at UCF in a number of ways as well. You look at the initiatives, the offices and departments that have been created just in recent years, the Pegasus Partnership Initiative, and that incredible team that's being built over there that's already having such a very tangible impact because of the proactive, deliberate, very intentional effort to engage with external organizations to make them aware of the value the university can offer them, and vice versa, the ways they can contribute to the next generation of talent, the next evolution of innovation. And that has obviously university-wide support. President Cartwright really helped drive that. Also, the National Science Foundation ART, Accelerating Research Translation Program, that's brought together parts of the university that weren't as well integrated in the past and continues to evolve in that way. I see the incubator program more integrated than ever with so many other parts of the university that support.
I think we're trying to create that one voice that you were referring to earlier, right?
Yes.
So we'll get there. I got one last question. When I see Carol Ann, or I speak of Carol Ann, or I think of Carol Ann Logue, I think of a person with the biggest Rolodex, an ecosystem builder, an innovator, someone with a lot of faith, someone that likes to volunteer and help others. What will be your advice for someone that is trying to build something meaningful right now? So what will be your advice to them based on your experience, your journey, where you are in life, that they can walk away and say, you know what, those are good nuggets for me to take home?
See every day, every experience, every person that crosses your path as just part of the journey. There's not an end game. There's really not. You may feel stuck. We've all felt stuck at times in our life. And is this ever going to end? Yes, it will. It's the nature of life. Things change. For better, for worse, they change. If I step back, what can I learn from this moment, from this challenge, from this pain, from this joy, from this opportunity? What can I learn from this person? There is not a person that comes across your path, no matter how different they look, no matter how different their circumstances, that you can't learn something from. Now, some people are dangerous and they're scary, so I get that. But in general, make yourself, be curious. Never stop being curious. I think that has been really a core driver in my life. It's a reason library and information science was so fascinating to me. It's a reason that science and technology is so fascinating, because it's all about curiosity. Yeah. Why do things work? Why does this person think the way they do? What's their story? Yeah. What do they know that I can learn from?
Do you have any routine that you can share with the audience about things that Carol Ann do in order to stay fresh and sharp? We all have something that we like to do every now and then some people like to read the Bible every morning. Some people like to go for a walk. So what do you do, Carol?
It's a combination of all that. I start off my day in prayer and studying scripture and devotionals. That just resets my mind for me and makes me much more intentional about paying attention to what's going on around me. Since I stepped away from UCF, and I have more flexibility with choosing how I spend my time, I definitely am out walking more or just exercising more. Moving our physical body stimulates our brain. And we forget that when we stop moving and exercise, even if it's just stretching and things like that. I also find, interestingly, that I read more now than I did when I was running 2 programs at UCF, working full time. When you're in that day-to-day challenge, you read what you need to read in so many things. Wonderful newsletters I would get. I would say, oh, that headline looks so interesting, but I'll read it later. Well, later never came. Defense newsletters, science and technology newsletters, local community newsletters. I'm learning more about what's going on in Orlando now than I ever did in so many ways. Whether I didn't know we had an Orlando Pickle Festival, and I love pickles. We're going to the Orlando Pickle Festival.
That's crazy. So, but going back to that one thing that you do every morning, what would that be?
Yeah. It's really prayer. It really
Prayers.
is. Yeah. I don't pick up my phone and look at it when I first get out of bed, other than to turn the alarm off. It is really setting that intention of where my focus is.
And I brought that back up because I think that it's very important for humans, all of us in general, to do something like that before we start our day. I think that will set the day in a very special tone.
Yeah. Start your day to the extent, if you can. Everybody's in challenging circumstances, I know. But if you can, start your day with at least a few minutes of intentional quiet. If you're a parent with toddlers and babies, you may have to go out in the garage or something. I don't know.
It's interesting because that will be the only time that we have control.
Yeah.
You actually have control of that moment.
That moment. Mm-hmm.
And that's something that we're lacking throughout the day, right? Because we're getting bombarded from many different sites. So anyway, well, thank you so much for sharing your story. Anything else that you want to contribute to the audience or to us about ecosystem builder or having a purpose in life, the motivation, right, that we talked about earlier?
Well, I think the other thing I would say, and those of you that have been around me the last 18 months or so, since word started getting out that I was, quote, retiring from UCF, know that I rebel against that word.
Yeah.
I think it's a very recent concept in our society, and to me it's very unbiblical to just stop doing what gives you passion. And maybe there are other things that give you passion, fine, but I don't retire. I just find new ways to serve, to learn, to be engaged, to experience this amazing community, this world, to experience relationships.
Yeah, you ride the wave.
Ride the wave.
Yeah. You ride
till the day
wave.
we die.
Right,
we should be. And it'll look different for all of us. For some, that is being out on the golf course, or if you're like my husband, you're out fishing a whole lot more
There you go.
since he's semi-retired, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what gives him great joy, and he takes people with him. He's building friendships out on the water.
And going back to your story, I can pick that what got you here was a passion. You were chasing something that you were interested in and that you like.
Yep.
And you were following the journey. You were not trying to take over the journey or controlling the journey. You were just riding the wave.
Right. Always curious.
Yeah.
And it's never for me been about fortune or fame. Yes, we all want to make a living, decent living, and I've been blessed with that. But that's what any of us will be remembered by. It's not how much money was in our bank account. We all know this.
Yeah.
It won't be by the awards that we got. It is what we are remembered by. There's 2 legacies I believe we leave. Our children, if we're blessed to have children, and how we touch the lives of those people that we encounter.
I agree
That's it.
100%. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. And
Wish you the
thank
best.
you for the extraordinary leadership you've brought to the incubation program.
Oh,
Couldn't
thank
be more
you.
proud.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Following your steps. All right. All right. Thank you. That's it.